Port Priority 8 is going to be the last time on North American soil that we're going to have a P-tier event for this season. It looks incredibly stacked with a bunch of top talent from basically all over the world, so I want to talk about what we can expect, the storylines going into it, and some of the craziness that's going to happen. I'm going to go over a bunch of the matches, etc., etc. Let's get into it. And also, let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to do these pre-tournament rambles, because I normally do post-tournament rambles and like set analysis, but I don't know if y'all want these pre-tournament stuff, so let me know. And while you're done the subscribe, I would appreciate it. Let's get into it. So really quickly, I just want to try to list as many top players as I can in one breath because there are so many top players going. It is such an incredibly stacked event. Akola, Mia, Spargo, Glutony, Sonics, Tweak, Light, Zomba, Riddles, Hurt, MK Leo, Shootone, Dabuz, Kenti, Ashimo, Mudace, Meister, Karama, Siski, Pocket, or Onin, Yawada, Lima, Skyj, Umeki, Shattuck, Kaninabe, Big D, Cola, Neo, Gact, Apollo Kage, Aaron, Ouch, Anathema, Alice, Andres, FN, Base Mage, Chase, Luis, Beamnut, Quick, MBD, Tar, Cosmos, and Goblin Guys, ABH4, Dark Vizzy, Kronos, Peanut, Armadillo. That was just the top 64 seeds. There are a ton more amazing players. So let's get into some of the matches that are going, starting at the top 8 storylines and then going back into pools because I feel like that's the only way that makes sense to do it. I'm going to be only focusing on the storylines in the winners bracket because losers can change so easily, so I'm not really going to be concerned about it too much. So let's talk about the top seeds, the top 4. Akola, of course, is the #1 player in the world right now. He's lost one tournament at like a major level, like that would be considered for the rankings, this entire season starting in July, and that was to Mia, the #2 seed. Mia obviously has been doing amazing recently as well, has won the tournament over Akola, and hasn't really placed below like 3rd or 4th, I'm pretty sure, this whole season, which is ridiculous. Of course, got 3rd at SmashCon, had his crazy run there. There have been so many amazing players that both of these guys have beat, and they're not really losing to anyone. But of course, the one person they are both losing to universally is Spargo. Spargo, of course, had his rough SmashCon, but otherwise has been doing really well. I mean, he's losing sometimes to like Light and Mudace and Gluto, but those players are really good and they could beat anyone else in the top seeds, so I'm not really going to blame him for that. But if Spargo makes it to the top 8, he has a very good shot of winning the whole thing because he has like a 10-1 record on Akola and like a 2-0 or 3-0 record on Mia. Cloud is very good against both of the characters of the top 2 players in the world, so I'm very excited to see if he gets there, can he show his dominance. And of course, the other amazingly hot player right now is Glutony. Glutony has been doing amazing. I mean, he got 2nd at Delfino Mazzareta, he won Rewired Fest, he won Tech Republic this last weekend, he's been playing on fire, he won Terra, like he's one of the only people to win a super major this season because most of them are won by Akola, Mia, or Spargo. So Gluto's the other one who's doing really well, and it's been amazing to see. He has been killing it. He has struggled with Akola, and of course he has a long struggle with Game & Watch, so I'm not sure how he's going to fare against the top of the top players, but he's been doing fantastically, and I definitely could see him making it here. But let's see the challengers who await these players in the top 32. So for Akola, his 2 main opponents in the top 32 are going to be Ashimo and Zomba. Ashimo has taken sets from Akola before, even if it's not very frequent, so that could be a loss, even though Steve definitely beats all of the fighting game characters pretty strong. And then Zomba or Riddles is his other opponent. If it's Riddles, because Riddles upset Zomba, I think Akola can probably have a good time considering the definitive win that Akola got at SmashCon, and again, beats the fighting game characters with Steve, so that can be pretty rough. But Zomba has a good record versus Akola. Zomba is one of the best players in the world against Steve, so I could definitely see that set going either way, even though I would still favor Akola. But again, Zomba, in my opinion, is playing like a top 5, not top 5, but like a top 10 player right now. He's been playing amazingly recently. He's only really losing to the top of the top players or incredibly bad matchups. So yeah, Zomba's been killing it. Like, he hasn't been outside of a top 8 in a long time. Oh no, I saw the next one before I took off my glasses. Glutony has a little bit of a harder road to get to this top 8 winners. In the top 32, he has to play 2 very strong players in Dabuz, Sonics, or Shootone, all of which who have a good record versus Glutony. So I guess I lied about Dabuz. He's been winning more recently, but the pre-patch days, or the pre-pandemic days, Dabuz had his number. So I guess Dabuz might be doable for him, absolutely. But let's talk about Sonics. Sonics, he unfortunately has a 1-5 record with, the closest set being Genesis this year at a 2-3 after losing with Wolf Game 1 and having a really close set otherwise. Of course, Glutony struggles with Sonic. Sonic does very well versus Wario, in my opinion. The first time that Glutony beat him was the first time they ever played, and since then Sonics has not lost, so that can be really difficult for him, absolutely. And unfortunately, if you think, oh, well, like Shootone can beat Sonics, that might be fine for him. It's been a 1-9 record in Shutone's favor, so Gluttony has to pull some crazy stuff out of his bag in order to make it to this top 8 winners. Literally all 3 of those opponents are difficult, to Buzz the least so, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be very, very challenging for him. So Gluttony, if he makes that top 8 winners, will honestly be a feat in and of itself, and then he's going to have to fight Akola probably. So that's crazy to me. Let's continue. For Mia's top 32 run, he's going to have to fight Zeta's own T, another top player in Japan, best Pac-Man in the world, arguably the best Kazuya in the world. Mia does have a good record versus him though. Currently with a 2-1 record on T, definitely Mia would be favored here, and of course Mia's been playing absolutely fantastically recently. They last played a month ago and it was a 3-0 victory, so it can be a little rough for T, but I could definitely see T doing it. And then the other match he's going to have is the winner of Light and Hurt. I would personally favor Light in that matchup. I know Light is very good versus Snake, although he did just lose to Apollo Kage at Let's Make Moves Miami, but either way, Mia, I'm pretty sure, very comfortable versus both of these players. I mean, he beat Light at SmashCon, even though Light can always do it, so, not counting him out. And then Hurt, I imagine Mia has the winning record. Oh, I totally lied. Hurt actually beat Mia in the last time, so that can be, oh yeah, I remember, I watched that set, duh. I remember that. And so Hurt can definitely make some upsets there. Light can also, so Mia's not gonna have an easy time, even though matchup-wise, he's probably favored in both of those sets. So let's continue to our boy Spargo. Ooh, jeez, oh my god, this part of bracket is insane for the North American crowd. We have Spargo versus Ken. Spargo did beat Ken the last time they played. Of course, he had a very close Game 5 set at the long losers run Kagedimi number 10 that Spargo attended, which he ended up winning through losers. And then he's gonna have to play the winner of Leo and Tweak, again, assuming all the seeding goes according to plan, which can be difficult for him. Leo did beat him at, Crown the Third. Tweak has beat him the last couple of times they've played. I know they played at Terra. So that can be pretty difficult for Spargo. He can do it, obviously. He's beaten both of those players before, and, he beat Leo more recently than vice versa. But the Ken set's also going to be challenging for him, so I could definitely see Spargo not making it to top 8, but I could also see Spargo totally making it to top 8. And the crazy part of this is we can go even farther back for some tough matches for basically everyone at this point, because now we're not going to be focused on the top 4 seeds, so let's continue. Like, this is in top 128. These matches are ridiculous. We have Akola versus Ludo, who, again, I would favor Akola. Ludo's amazing. He can definitely do it. I know he's probably going to play Falco in this match, but so Akola can definitely, or Akola's probably going to win. Ludo can definitely do it. And then Akola versus Apollo Kage, who in friendlies apparently go like even stock for stock, so I could see Apollo Kage absolutely winning that, but Apollo Kage is going to have to get through Aaron, and Aaron, of course, is an incredibly strong player, and I would be a little sad to see Aaron versus Akola, because I think Diddy just loses quite hard to Steve, so that could be rough. But again, Aaron is amazing. He's one of the most explosive players in the world, so he can definitely do well. We have Ashimo versus JDV. Of course, Ashimo does have a lot of experience with Pac-Man playing T, but that doesn't mean he's not going to run into a tough opponent in JDV here, the very different Pac-Man compared to T. Now, Ashimo does have a winning record against T, but has he played JDV before? No. They haven't, so it's going to be the first opportunity for JDV to get some experience against the world's best Ryu, absolutely. So that can be an interesting set. Then we have Mudace versus Geist. Mudace has been playing amazing recently, and I feel like he's very good at the Bayo matchup, especially being a Smash 4 veteran. So I'm assuming Mudace is going to win that, even though Geist is amazing and can absolutely make any upset he can. Ashimo versus Mudace would be a hot set. Mudace versus JDV would be a hot set, and so would Geist versus Ashimo. It's kind of interesting because I don't think Japan has a ton of top Bayos. They have that one Bayo who, upset Akola at a local, or like double eliminated Akola at a local. So they have a competent one, but I don't know if Ashimo has played against him. I don't know how much experience they have overall. So this little corner of the bracket can be insane. The next little quadrant, we have Zama versus Tsubotsubo, the Joker player from Japan. Of course, top Joker players can always do amazing, but Zamba has been playing amazing. Like, he's been on fire recently, so I'm assuming Zamba's going to win that. Then we have Umeki versus Louis Money. Louis Money or Luis can definitely beat Umeki. Umeki, of course, is amazing himself, so that one is honestly probably the closest set that I can think of so far that we've talked about. I'm not sure who's going to win that. And then, of course, if Louis Money makes it to Zamba, Palu versus Rob is a little bit of a tough matchup, but then I think Zamba would do quite well against Umeki, so that one can be some interesting upsets right there. And then this next section, we have Riddles versus Beastly. Beastly has been killing it recently. The Texas Diddy / Pokemon trainer player. He's been doing so well right now, but going up against Riddles is pretty difficult when Riddles has a very good record versus Tweak. So so that can be pretty rough for him. But I could see Beastly potentially winning. And then we have Skyjay versus Peebnut. Skyjay, of course, one of the most explosive players in the world. He's going to kill you in 3 hits, revenge, yada, yada, yada. But Peebnut, one of the most controlling players in the world with that crazy Mega Man. So we might see a Mega Man versus Shoto's fight over here if Peebnut upsets Skyjay. That could definitely happen. And honestly, I could see Peebnut doing well versus Riddles. I mean, I would assume Riddles would still win, but it could be difficult. I think Riddles would opt to go Terry in the matchup just for speed. So that'll be very interesting. That's the first of the top 128 pools. Let's go to the next one. This next section already looks insane just from the first couple of games. We have Gluttony versus Beast Mode Paul. They have played once, but it was like over 2 years ago before Beast Mode Paul's extension. I don't know how Hero does versus Wario, but I could see Paul winning that, like low key. Like Gluttony is favored for sure, but I could see Paul doing very well. And then we have the winner of Cola and Alice. Of course, both of these players Roy players, so we're going to have a hot Roy Ditto. They better put this on stream. Port Priority 8 staff, I'm telling you, put this on stream. We haven't seen a Roy Ditto in so long, especially not one that isn't just like Cola versus Goblin. So it'd be nice to see a different Roy Ditto. And of course, the winner of that playing Gluttony. Cola versus Gluto can be an amazingly hot set. I'm sure Alice can do that as well. Cola, of course, having his amazing run at Let's Make Moves Miami, so he's back on it. This can go any type of way, which is insane. Then we have next Dabuz, Kronos, Siski, and Cosmos. Dabuz and Kronos, I would favor Dabuz. Like, Kronos is amazing and he plays very differently than the other Snakes. I would know. I lost to him at SmashCon, even though I am very, very good versus Snake. So I could see Kronos doing well, but I feel like the combination of Min Min and Olimar and Rosa can be very, very difficult for every Snake player that he faces. And of course, he's also one of the best, if not the best player against Snake in the world. So I'm going to favor Dabuz there. Then we have Siski and Cosmos. Even though Cosmos technically should be favored here in terms of matchup, I know Siski has had success versus Aegis players as well as specifically Cosmos. I know Siski won at Battle of BC, not this year, but last year. So I know it's definitely possible for Siski to do well. But of course, Cosmos can always just turn it on, you know, up air Siski a bunch because that's how he just plays that matchup. So that can be really interesting. If Siski makes it to Dabuz, I would definitely favor Dabuz because Olimar Samus is a -3 matchup. It's, you know, easily Samus's worst matchup, and you know, Samus players are lucky it's the worst matchup is Olimar because no one's going to pick up Olimar specifically for Samus, but if you run into an Olimar player, it's GG, shake my hand. If Cosmos makes it to Dabuz, that Aegis has given Dabuz a lot of trouble, so Cosmos can easily make it out this top 32 winner side, which would be insane because, you know, his results have obviously been struggling a little bit more recently, but, you know, if Siski can beat Cosmos, Dabuz is sitting pretty. If not, it can be looking pretty rough for him, even though he has been, of course, on fire recently, doing so well. The third at Let's Make Moves Miami, the second at SmashCon. So Dabuz is obviously killing it, but a pesky little Aegis might get in his way. For this next section, we have Sonics, Sharp, Big D, and Andres FN. Sonics is definitely one of the most favored and like hard to beat players in the world. Sharp can definitely do it, but I would definitely give Sonics the edge in this matchup. And then we have Big D and Andres FN. Of course, I do think that Ice Climbers does do very well versus all of the fighting game characters, so I would definitely favor Big D, even though Andres FN has been absolutely insane recently. That Terry has been terrifying. I don't actually know specifically as much how Terry does versus the Ice Climbers, because I know they can actually kill Nana really easily with just like up airing her off the top and then, you know, up being and taking whatever damage Ice Climbers is going to dish out there, because it's going to be definitely better than having both climbers available. And then we have potentially Big D versus Sonics. I feel like if Andres makes it here, Sonics will definitely win. I don't know if Sonics and Big D have ever played, so it doesn't seem like Big D has played against any of the super top Sonic players. He's played against Ken, but I'm sure Ken went Sephiroth against him in their last set. But of course, Big D has had a little bit more of an up and down season compared to last. I mean, he got 49th at Gommel, but he had a very quiet, in my opinion, 13th at Super SmashCon 2023 with a bunch of great wins, only losing to Akola and Shattuck. And as we know, Shattuck's been playing crazy recently, and it's Akola, the best player in the world. So, you know, has been doing overall still pretty good. Got 33rd at Let's Make Moves Miami, which is another little bit of a rough patch, but against Sisalex and Epic Gabe, two very good players. So Big D can definitely have an amazing run here. Can he beat Sonics? I'm not sure. I don't really know how Sonic deals with Blizzard Walls. I mean, I've played Sonics in like friendlies with Ice Climbers, but my Ice Climbers is pathetic compared to Big D's. So that can be, you know, an interesting set to look out for. And in this next section, we have Shootone, Peanut, Pocket, and Tarek. Shootone and Peanut, you know, Peanut is amazing. He is super talented. if he beats Shutone, that would be like the craziest upset he's ever got. I could see him doing it low-key. I would definitely still favor Shutone, but I could definitely see Peanut, you know, just edge guarding this Aegis player. I don't know if he would end up going Olimar. That's a really weird match. I feel like Peanut, of all the super top players to play, I think Shutone is a pretty good one for him. And then we have Pocket versus Tarek. I feel like they played recently. So Tarek has not played Onin or Pocket, so that can be also a very interesting set. I don't know how Greninja does versus Steve in general, but the great advantage state and of course the ability to counter and things like Anvil and Minecart can always be a little tricky. Tarek has been doing very well recently. He just won the Cumbre 2 like invitational in Central America. He's been doing pretty well at all these events. I mean, he hasn't, I don't think, like done amazingly well. Like he hasn't got like 3rd or 4th, but he's still doing overall very well. He got 5th at Rise and Grind. He got 9th at Big House. He got 33rd at Let's Make Moves Miami, which is a little rough, but also he lost to Rivers and Anathema. So like 2 very amazing players. Again, Rivers had a very quiet, amazing run here that just like wasn't on stream ever. But then he got 1st at Cumbre, beating a ton of amazing players, including Mr. E, More Salsa, and Haunter. So he has some good Steve experience. I mean, he did 3-0 Haunter, who's probably the best Steve in Central America. So it can be a very interesting section of bracket. This can kind of go either way. Again, I would assume Shutone would make it here, but also Pocket can definitely beat Shutone, but Tarek can beat Pocket, and Peanut low-key can beat both of them. So this will be a little interesting quadrant. Let's go to the next pool. In this first section, we have Spargo, MFA, which I think MFA plays Olimar and has been playing Falcon more recently. Either way, Spargo should have, you know, the reins in on that. But after that, he has to play Anathema or Neo. If it's Anathema, I think Spargo will do pretty decent, although Anathema has been kind of back to form recently, which is incredible to see. But Neo can give Spargo some trouble because we did, of course, see Spargo lose to LY. I think Cloud doesn't do particularly well versus Corrin. I mean, it's like an even-ish matchup, but I think Corrin can kind of play against the player really well, as we saw with LY versus Spargo at SmashCon. The Neo Anathema set I'm actually pretty excited for. That's honestly has a lot of implications for the rest of the bracket, but let's continue. We have Ken, Dark Wizzy, Kurama, and Send. I would definitely favor Ken over Dark Wizzy, although Dark Wizzy is pretty good versus Sonic, but Ken has been just playing better recently, so I'm gonna assume Ken is just going to outplay for the most part. Then we have Kurama and Send. So we actually might have technically a Mario Ditto here if Dark Wizzy wins, and I think they had a decently close set at Crown the Third. I think it was 3-1. But Kurama Send, honestly, I don't think that Ness hates that matchup. Of course, Kurama been crazy recently. He's been playing very, very well. He's kind of had rough like placements, but have very close sets with the people he's losing to, like very close losses to Spargo and very close losses to basically anyone that he's fighting against. But Send, of course, has been playing like very solid at these majors recently, so Send can easily beat Kurama because, you know, if you're gonna have to fight a Mario or fight a Ness, they both can kind of scrap with each other really well. So that'll be an interesting set. And then I think Ken would honestly beat both Kurama or Send. Definitely Send because Sephiroth Ness just doesn't seem fun at all. Honestly, Sonic Ness is like a little bit better, but I'm not sure how that will go. And I know Ken has been mostly focusing on the Sonic recently anyway. I also don't know how like Sonic versus Mario actually is in this game, because I know it was really bad in Smash 4 and I haven't seen it that much, especially like post-pandemic, so I'm not 100% sure how that will go. Next little quadrant, we have Tweak and Shu. Shu, of course, the Zero Suit player from Colorado. Tweak obviously can do very well against that because Diddy Kong does well versus Zero Suit, but Shu also has a Mario, so that can be a little bit of a scrappy set, but I'm still going to favor Tweak. Tweak has been playing very well and very consistent recently, so no reason to think he wouldn't win there. And then we have Kaninabe, the Fox player from Japan, who just had their crazy run at, I think the most recent Kagedibi 11, into Base Mage. I don't remember if Base Mage has played Kaninabe. I know he's played Light, but I don't remember how those sets went. Like, even though Base Mage seems to do well versus Wolves and Falcos, the Foxes are a little bit of a different issue, so I'm not 100% sure how the match is going to go. Base Mage can obviously win because you're just going to hit, you know, the Fox player once and just kill them, because that's kind of how Jigglypuff works, but Kaninabe, again, has been playing very well recently, so I expect him to win. And then we have Kaninabe versus Tweak. Of course, Tweak does not like playing against Fox, has beat Light the last couple times they've played. Pretty sure, like, it's at the very least back and forth, you know, as opposed to the Light would always be winning, but Kaninabe is a different Fox than Light, so maybe that's going to throw Tweak off a bit, but of course Kaninabe has to be ready for the best Diddy Kong player in the world, so that'll be some interesting sets. And in this last section, we have MKLeo, Armadillo, Yaoda, and MVD. MKLeo Armadillo, low-key could be a hot set. Armadillo has been playing very well recently. He's not really been losing to random stuff. You know, he plays Aegis and Lucario. I assume it would be a Lucario set versus Leo. You know, being able to control with Shadow Balls, of course, having that comeback clutch factor versus Leo. You know, if Leo isn't able to solid out like an advantage state or two, that can be really rough. rough for him, but Armadillo, of course, one of the best players in Canada, very, very powerful. I would still favor Leo, but I wouldn't be surprised if Armadillo won, if that makes sense. On the other hand, Yauda versus MVD. Yauda has been killing it recently. He's been so consistent with his results in Japan, and MVD of course has been on an upswing. He has been doing fairly well recently. Had a little bit of a dip at Let's Make Moves Miami, but again, he lost to like 2 amazing players, so it's nothing really to sneeze at. Samus versus Snake is always an awkward matchup, but we have seen, of course, Hurt do well versus Yauda, so it's not like Yauda's invincible versus Snake by any means. That set can really go either way. And then, Yauda versus Leo. I don't know how Leo does versus Samus's for the most part, honestly. I feel like I haven't seen him play against a top Samus in a long time. So Yauda can definitely beat Leo, although Leo can obviously just like go Aegis and win as well. And then MVD versus Leo can always be a hot set. I think they've always had very good sets. I know Leo has, lost to Apollo Kage, lost to a couple of other Snakes. I'm pretty sure recently, maybe it was just Apollo Kage, I don't remember. But that can always be an interesting set to make Leo get into the top 32, and again, the winner of that would play Tweak or Kaninabe, so very interesting. Let's go into the last pool of the day. For Mia's winner's run to continue, he has to get through Atada, which that should be fine for him. Atada, a very talented Ness player, but Mia has a very good record versus Gact. Game & Watch does very well versus Ness, so I would definitely favor him. Then the winner of Ouch and Gact. Of course, if it's Gact, same thing applies to what I said, but if it's Ouch, that could be a different story. One of the most interesting Wolf players in the world. I'm sure Mia has played against the top Wolf players in Japan, but Ouch is kind of different. He's really good. Again, I would still favor Mia because he's the second best player in the world at the moment in terms of results. He's been so consistent, it is ridiculous. But I could definitely see Ouch doing pretty well there, but I would still favor Mia. In the next section, we have T and H4. Oh yeah, I heard from H4, he has like the hardest Pikachu bracket known to man. Complete side tangent. So to make it out of winners, he has to play No Tag, the very talented Mario and Samus player from South Carolina. So he has to play a Mario or a Samus, which are not very fun matchups, into T, which, T has never lost to a Pikachu ever between myself, Shiny Mark, or H4, so that's rough. And then if H4 somehow wins that, he's probably going to have to play against Meister, who hasn't really lost to Pikachu offline. So this is such a... And then if he wins that, he has to play Mia probably, or Ouch, who still has a good record versus H4. Like, what did he do to this tournament series to make the bracket so hard for him? Anyway, let's continue. I would definitely favor T in this matchup. It's so hard to beat him with Pikachu. Then we have Meister and Goblin. I don't actually know the last time they played. So Goblin and Meister have played a couple times, the most recent being in Delfino Mazzareta 2022, so last year, but they have gone pretty close in sets. I think Goblin has been playing very well recently, so I could definitely see Goblin winning, but I would still favor Meister, and then we're gonna have Meister versus T, where T normally wins that, so I definitely agree with this whole section. Even if T has to play Goblin, I know Goblin beat T at that one summit they were both at, but I would still favor T absolutely, especially now that T plays Kazuya Roy, obviously known as a rough matchup, so T's probably advancing here. We have, that's a hard bracket for Light. Oh my god, Light versus Jared is king, and then Shattuck and So I'm gonna ignore Light's Let's Make Moves Miami placement in terms of how amazing he is, because he's just such a consistent player, but having to play against one of the best Shulks in the world and Jared is king can be very scary. That matchup is really rough. I mean, Shulk can edgeguard Fox super hard, doesn't really get comboed because of shield art, so that can be that's a very rough pull for Light. And then he has to play the winner of Shattuck and Yuno being Chase. So Chase versus Shattuck. I honestly, like, Shattuck's been playing really, really well, but low-key, I favor Chase in that matchup. I don't know why. I feel like the movement of Chase or can be very, very powerful in that aspect. And then we have, I honestly don't know who's going to make it out of the section. This is probably the scariest section of all of the ones that I've seen so far, so that can be really scary. And then for the final section, we have Hurt, Atomic, Lima, and Quick. Hurt, of course, the amazing Snake who has been catapulting results in Japan. Amazingly strong player, having to play against Atomic, one of the best Robs in the world. I would definitely say Snake does well versus Rob, so I'm going to say that Hurt is probably favored here. Of course, there are also a ton of Robs in Japan that he probably has experienced against. Whereas I don't know if there's a top Snake in Texas. I could be misremembering. I don't think of one at the moment. So I would say that Hurt probably has the matchup experience edge in that. And then we have Lima versus Quick. Lima, of course, an amazing Bayo player. Quick, the second best, or like I think ranked the second or third best player in Europe this season. Amazingly strong Samus has been doing very, very well after he refocused on the game. But I know that a lot of the Samus players think that Bayo's a tough matchup for her. So I would favor Lima there, and then we have Lima or Quick versus Hurt. If it's Quick, I feel like he has a better chance against Hurt than Lima. I know Lima is, of course, an amazing player, but Snake into Bayo is such a hard matchup. So I'm not 100% sure how anyone's going to stop hurt in this little section unless it's quick, but that can be really interesting. And again, though any of those matches changing can really change the pace of this tournament, I'm very much so looking forward to port priority. Of course, I will be going over matches after in terms of YouTube videos, so be on the lookout for those. Thank you all for watching. If I didn't really cover anything you want me to in these, let me know. I'm always down to learn for these type of things because I don't really talk about pre-tournament stuff very often. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all next time.